My guest at this time is American Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern. She joins me for a few minutes to discuss the Red Cross response to the devastation of Hurricane Michael in the Florida Panhandle and beyond. And Gail, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Greg. I appreciate it.
Well, the images from Florida and even Georgia and all the way up to Virginia are gut-wrenching from this storm. I know usually you have several days to prepare for a hurricane because it's making its way across the Atlantic. This time it just spun up off of Cuba and slammed into Florida a couple days later. So how did that complicate your ability to prepare and immediately respond?
Well, fortunately, we have a lot of supplies pre-positioned in warehouses around the country, and we have volunteers at the ready that we can call, and they are willing to be deployed. So we were able to get people and supplies in fairly quickly, but the roads have debris on them. Power's out, communications is challenging because some of the cell towers were out. So it's been quite a challenge on the ground.
You've seen plenty of powerful storms, I'm sure, over the years. Where does this one rank?
Oh, this is one of the worst that I've seen because it was a hurricane that sort of behaved like a tornado, and then it started moving into Georgia and Alabama and was behaving more like a hurricane. And I'm sure all of your listeners have seen pictures of the devastation. It's just heartbreaking. And I have to say, our hearts go out to anyone who was impacted by Hurricane Michael. It was really devastating. And schools are gone, homes are gone, businesses are gone, and they're in our prayers.
So where do you start when there's that kind of devastation?
Well, the first thing we do is make sure we have enough volunteers and enough shelters to house people. And right now we have 1,300 volunteers on the ground. We have 27 different shelters open in the impacted area. There were 2,000 people that stayed in our shelter overnight. There were 10,000 at the peak. And we also have a number of emergency response vehicles that are capable of feeding people, and they're standing around the community, driving around and giving people food and water and a lot of comfort. So far, we've served about 125,000 meals and snacks. So we're hard at work trying to help the community get back on their feet.
And I know you're there as long as it's going to take, but obviously with the homes that are leveled and the businesses and the schools and everything else that you mentioned, it's going to take a while. So ultimately, do the shelters stay up? Do most folks find family members or friends elsewhere to stay with until their homes are back? How does it work?
Well, we keep the shelters open until everyone has a place to stay. And in fact, there's still 400 people in the Carolinas from Hurricane Florence. So we will keep those shelters open until everyone is placed. But we also live in this community, and we have employees and volunteers that are in the impacted area year-round. And so we don't pack up and go home because this is our home.
You mentioned the Carolinas, and you still have shelters up there from Hurricane Florence. I'm sure you're used to dealing with multiple hurricanes, but where are your resources right now? How stretched are they?
We are so fortunate because we have amazing volunteers, and they see a need, and they just want to jump in and help. When I was visiting our ops center at Hurricane Florence, I met a volunteer who was on her 80th deployment. So our volunteers are the kind of people that they're true humanitarians, and they want to fill that need. But they're tired, and it's not easy absorbing all that sadness, but we're fortunate they are willing to be deployed, and like I said, we will stay there till the last person is out of the shelter.
Do you have a presence in Georgia and Virginia and some of these other places that got hit by Michael after it made landfall?
Absolutely, and in fact, we're in 3,000 counties across the United States, and we respond to about 64,000 disasters every single year. So we have volunteers and employees all around the country helping people that have experienced a disaster.
Gail, I know you've got to run, but for folks who want to help, how can they do so?
Well, first of all, with all of these storms, with Florence and Michael, we had to cancel a lot of blood drives. So if people want to donate blood, that would be wonderful if they could give the gift of life. People that want to volunteer, like I said, we're all around the country. People can volunteer locally in their community or even be deployed for a big storm. And we also could use financial donations. We don't get money from the federal government. Everything we do is because of the generosity of the American people. And every gift would be appreciated regardless of its size. So if you want to donate blood or time or make a financial gift, you just go to our website, redcross.org, or you call our 800 number, 1-800-RED-CROSS.
Gail, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for giving us an update and letting our listeners know how they can help. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Gail McGovern is President and CEO of the American Red Cross. I'm Greg Columbus reporting for Radio America.